This is how to replace your rear shocks on the 2013 Dodge Dart. It's been a few weeks, everything's holding good, riding good. I just wanted to give some tips I didn't cover in the rest of the video. Make sure you watch it all before you start, it might help. I made a reference to start with the fender liner. You have to remove it to get the shock mount out on the top. But on this side, I just trimmed it, as you can see there, a little bit. And I was able to get it out no problem without having to remove the entire fender liner. If you see the other side, I didn't trim this one. I took it out. And it's not, I mean, there's already a cutout there. I just cut a little to the sides. Don't seem to be an issue. Also, you have to retain the factory boot over the shock. In order to get that off, I just turned the old shock upside down, put it on the ground, and it came right off. You also have to retain the nut on the top of the shock that goes into the mount, and the bolt and nut on the bottom of the shock from the old one. However, the factory nut is welded onto the original shock. So I just took a hammer to mine. It's right there. And I was able to get it off and reuse it. However, you might just want to get a new nut to go on there, save yourself some hassle. Also, do not turn your torque wrench up or your impact wrench up too high and snap the bolt like I did. The top shock mount bolt, I snapped it. I got away from the project and came back and finished it and was in a hurry and ended up costing myself some more time. So make sure you keep it down. I don't know what the torque spec is. If you can find it, that's even better. I just put it on the second setting of my impact and it seemed to be fine for the rest of them. They're all still tight. Another thing, if you've never worked on this car and had to take the wheels off, you'll find that it's a pain in the ass. These lug nuts are a two-piece design, and the dealer even told me that they have to hammer on a socket. So I took a 3/4 inch socket, this one right here. Pretty big, and I hammered that on to every lug nut before I started, and you're able to wiggle it off after you're done. And then you can fit the 19mm on there that's supposed to take the lug nut off, and you won't have any issues. I'm trying to think. I think that's all. Make sure you watch the entire video before you start. It'll help you get the tools you need, and you'll know what you're up against. It didn't take too long. Now that you have, you know, a little insight, which I didn't have. I was just winging it when I started. So the only other thing I can say, get a metric socket set, the long version, not the shallow ones. You're gonna need the longer ones. And I think that's it. All right, well, good luck. Guys, I did have to put a pair of vice grips on the old shock and the new shock on the piston to get the top bolt out of the mount. Otherwise, it just kept spinning the entire thing. So that'll help too. All right, yeah, it's not too bad. Especially if you cut the fender well, you cut yourself about an hour time out of there instead of trying to take it all apart. So good luck. Alright, this is how to change the rear shock on a 2013 Dodge Dart. This is a Rally. I'm assuming they're all the same. Here's the new one. So, in order to get to the top, you have to remove the entire fender liner, which has a plethora of bolts and plastic clips everywhere. Bottom, simple. One bolt right there. And then you have to take the mount, which I already took one bolt out there, and the second one. Take the mount down, and there should be a bolt on the top of the shock. Or to save yourself some time, because this took forever, and you see it was a little muddy, that didn't help. You can almost get to the bolts. Get some light. If you can see that. Let me grab a flashlight. You can almost get to the bolts, but the liner's in the way. So I think I'm just gonna trim it enough to get the impact in there, so I don't have to take out this thing next time. You see, there's a bolt there, there. There's clips all the way up here, one underneath there, one right here, which I couldn't see because it was covered in mud and I couldn't figure out why it wasn't coming off. There. There's bolt. You don't need to remove the one here for the rear bumper. The liner goes around that. And that's it. Just pull it out. You need a 10mm, an 8mm, and a flathead screwdriver. And then this shock mount is a, well, let's see. An 11mm.
In order to do any work,
yeah, I was just talking about the socket set. You need the metric set. Get the long one, as I stated in the beginning of the video. No, not the short one, because the top bolt on the shock there is kind of hard to get to with the shallow ones. So all that so far. So all right, hope this helps. I couldn't find any other videos on it, so. Alright, so to get the shock mount off of the shock, you use 17mm socket. Here's the bolt. Make sure you keep this, you need it for the new one. And you also have to keep the boot, so you have to pull this off. Put that all on the new one, bolt the mount back on, and bolt it back up inside there. Good to go. Alright, so I got the new boot. Well, the old boot on the new shock back in there. I gotta put the bottom one in. So with the new shock, it doesn't come with the bolt. You gotta reuse the old one. Well, the old one is, the nut is spot welded to the shock. So I just took my BFA here and hit it a few times and it came right off. That way I can reuse it. And you may, I originally said to get this socket set, you may want to get some longer ones. That bolt on the shock mount is down a ways, so it's hard to get it with the short sockets there. I think that's it. Hopefully. This is part 3, so. Good luck. It's not too hard, just kind of tedious. As long as you got the right tools. Alright, one last tip before I go. You may have to use your floor jack under the control arm to position the new shock where it needs to go. And I suggest putting the bottom bolt in first and then raising it up and attaching the top shock mount back to the car.